We are completely wrong that the Poneglyphs never mention Nerona Imu. For years, it has been easy to assume that Imu must have been completely erased from history, because even the existence of the person sitting on the empty throne is treated as one of the greatest secrets in the world. But the truth is that we simply haven't been shown the complete contents of the historical Poneglyphs or whatever Roger discovered on Laugh-Tale. What we actually know is that there are 30 Poneglyphs, but only 9 historical Poneglyphs collectively carry the pieces needed for the true history. Many of their actual texts have never been revealed to us. We know some discuss ancient weapons, Joy Boy, the Void Century, and the Ancient Kingdom, but Oda has deliberately hidden most of their wording. So there could absolutely be a stone saying something like, Nerona Imu betrayed Joy Boy, or the 20 kings were led by Nerona Imu. We simply haven't seen it. But there's an even more interesting possibility. Roger may not have learned about Imu from a poneglyph at all. Chapter 9, 167 gives us the famous statement from Odin. After reaching Laugh-Tale, the Roger pirates learned about the Void Century, the meaning of D, the ancient weapons, and effectively everything in the world. Roger then specifically addresses Joy Boy, saying that Joy Boy left behind an incredible treasure and a funny story. For years we assumed this meant Poneglyphs has the full history of the Void Century and Roger learns everything. Chapter 1, 1190 makes that sequence much more specific. When Gaban confronts Imu, he says that what he knows comes from Joy Boy's own words. That is one of the strongest clues we've ever received concerning what actually exists on Laugh-Tale, and that changes the mystery. Roger may have found Joy Boy's personal account, not merely historical records, but something written, recorded, or otherwise preserved by Joy Boy himself. Think about Roger's reaction in chapter 967. He doesn't say, interesting history. He speaks directly to Joy Boy. He essentially reacts to it as though he has just heard Joy Boy tell his story. That makes chapter 1190 extremely important. Gaban now effectively confirms, we learned from Joy Boy's words. That could be where Imu enters the story. And there is another important distinction. Nerona Imu existed 800 years ago isn't actually the greatest secret. Ivankov already knew that someone named Saint Imu of the Nerona Family existed among the first 20. He obtained that information from historical records. What shocked Ivankov was Sabo saying that someone called Imu is sitting on the empty throne today. That's why Ivankov connects the two. The ancient founder of the world government is Saint Nerona Imu, and the present ruler whose name is also Imu. So, could this literally be the same person? That's chapter 1086. And later chapters have now confirmed that they are indeed the same Nerona Imu. So the Poneglyphs wouldn't even need to say, there is secretly an immortal king named Imu ruling the world. They might only have to describe Nerona Imu during the Void Century. Roger's crew could then have discovered what Imu did to Joy Boy. But here's where chapter 1190 becomes very strange. Imu asks Gaban what he knows, and Gaban's answer connects his knowledge directly to Joy Boy's words. Then, chapter 1191 goes even further. Luffy directly asks Gaban about Imu, and Gaban basically tells him that Imu's identity is something nobody is supposed to know and describes Imu as something that could be called a god. That means Gaban clearly knows considerably more than, there was a guy named Nerona Imu 800 years ago. He knows that the figure standing in front of them is connected to the secret at the top of the world. So I think there are 3 possibilities, ranked from strongest to weakest. First is that Joy Boy explicitly identified Imu on Laugh-Tale. This is now my strongest interpretation. Joy Boy left an account of the Void Century and Roger found it. Joy Boy's story described the person or force he fought against, and that person was Nerona Imu. Therefore, Roger, Rayleigh, Gaban, and Odin learned about Imu at Laugh-Tale. This explains Gaban's chapter 1190 statement beautifully. Imu asked Gaban, what does he know about him? And Gaban only answered, Joy Boy's words. That exchange would essentially mean that Joy Boy told them about Imu not literally. Next is that the Poneglyphs mention Nerona Imu, but we haven't seen that text, but it is also completely possible. Remember, readers have seen only fragments of the true history. Robin hasn't assembled all 9 historical poneglyph messages for us yet, but there could therefore be something like Joy Boy against the 20 Kingdoms, and among those names is Nerona Imu. Roger's crew could have combined those records with the information waiting on Laugh-Tale. Third is that Roger learned about ancient Imu at Laugh-Tale, but the crew learned about modern Imu later. This is the weirdest possibility, But don't dismiss it. Roger's crew might have learned Nerona Imu was Joy Boy's enemy. But perhaps they didn't initially know Imu survived 800 years. Someone could have later discovered that the ancient Imu was still alive. And Shanks creates a major problem here. Shanks never went to Laughtail. Buggy became sick before the final journey, and Shanks stayed behind with him. Yet by the Herald/Loki events, Shanks clearly knew that there was a hidden king of the world above the world government. Chapter 1189 has him warning Loki about this secret ruler. That means Laughtail cannot be the only possible source of information about Imu. Shanks obtained that knowledge somewhere else. His connections to Mary Jouai and the upper levels of the world government become extremely suspicious here. And there's one detail I think is especially important. Rayleigh never said, "We understood everything perfectly." In Sabaody, he actually warns Robin that although Roger's crew reached the truth of the world, they were still pirates, not scholars like the people of O'Hara. And Robin might eventually look at the exact same information and arrive at a completely different conclusion. That could become hugely important, because knowing what happened and understanding why it happened are not necessarily the same thing. And that creates one last problem. If Roger really knew this much about Imu, why did nothing happen? Roger had reached the place the world government spent centuries preventing anyone from finding. If Joy Boy identified Imu there, Roger may have discovered one of the world's greatest secrets, yet he still could not turn that knowledge into victory, because knowledge was not the same thing as a solution. Roger could discover the enemy, understand the history, and still realize that he was not the person who could finish what Joy Boy started, which makes his laughter even stranger. Because if the story Waiting on Laughtail included the person Joy Boy fought against and the conflict that reshaped the world, Roger was laughing while reading about a war that was still unfinished 800 years later. So my current interpretation is this. I don't think the mystery is, why didn't the Poneglyphs mention Imu? I think the better mystery is, what exactly did Joy Boy tell Roger about Imu? Because Chapter 1190 may have quietly answered the first half of your question. Roger's crew didn't simply discover some neutral historical textbook. They appear to have encountered Joy Boy's version of the story. And if Joy Boy personally told his story, the Nerona Emu may be the villain inside the story that made Roger laugh. Which creates an even stranger question. What could possibly be funny about Joy Boy losing to Imu, the ancient kingdom being destroyed, and the world being controlled for 800 years? Roger realized he was not that person. He had found the answer, but he had arrived before the question could finally be solved. That, I think, is where the real Laughtail mystery is hiding.